Hello and welcome to this next module of the Inclusive Education Paraprofessional Training Series. This module is called Specialized Instruction for the Inclusive Classroom, English Language Arts, or ELA. So we're going to give a deeper dive into different content areas from here on out for the rest of the module, with this one focusing on ELA. So our objectives, to understand what specifically designed instruction, or SDI, looks like in practice for English language arts. So what do modifications look like for ELA? And for you to know how to create curricular modifications, or SDI and ELA. So when we talk about modifying English language arts, we're talking about reading, writing, and spelling modifications, right? Anything related to English language arts. And I'll provide a curriculum example connected to an IEP goal. So just as a review, you have the link to this tool here that talks about, it lists the roles and responsibilities of different people, including students with and without disabilities and inclusive classrooms. And this module will be talking about active participation for students with disabilities and things that you need to do to make that happen, as well as ways to give direct instruction to students with disabilities. So as I noted here, you have a resource hyperlinked at the top. So you will have a PDF of this presentation and you can click and get this, this tool. So when we talk about reading modifications, there's lots of things that you can do to modify content. So you have the list of these ideas here. I won't read each one, but these provide a lot of great examples of something to do that's really easy. So here are some examples of reading modifications from my students at Rowan University. So the image on the left, there was a compare contrast activity, and it was comparing or contrasting fiction or nonfiction. And so they use the words fake and real, stories and facts, right? So the student is then engaging with the content by making you can see that this is a very simple modification, and the students are going to engage with post-its. On this next image here, you have a story, and then you have a small little word window cut out so that the student is only reading a few words at a time, so it's not overwhelming. Very simple, right? Here on the right-hand side, you have a book that has a page clip or a paper clip, one of those black paper clips that you can put on in between pages, and it helps students flip pages easier rather than having to have that fine motor dexterity. On this image on the far right, you have notes from class, and then they're using a ribbon as a bookmark to just slowly go down and see the text. So again, it's not too overwhelming with as much text on one page. So very simple. These can be made with things from around your house in a modification bag. So these are just some ideas of things that you can do to make modifications. Related to writing modifications, again, you have this resource hyperlinked at the top, and you have all of these ideas that you can try, and you can make a lot of these just from your modification bags. So I'm going to show you some examples. So you have writing modifications. Again, these are from my students in my specialized instruction course. So here's an example of just a fill in the blank, a really simple modification. So they wrote out a sentence just with a marker. I will blank my bike to school today. The cat is blank. We are going to the blank. So you might provide a word box or text and word box at the top, or picture and word box at the top. And the student is then filling in these words and then crossing them out and knowing what remains, right? So that's one way to make modifications. Here, say your class switched gears really quickly. And they went into a science activity where they were talking about penguins, and you didn't know that was happening. So this paraprofessional drew a penguin real quick, and then just drew out the main body parts of a penguin, right? And then they made a note card with the keywords. The penguin is large, flightless seabird, black and white, southern hemisphere, right? So again, these are reactive modifications, and so they're on the fly. The goal is you want to try to do proactive modifications so you know what's coming up, you're well prepared, and you've planned it out. But sometimes things shift, and you can easily do something like this with just materials from around your house. So for spelling modifications, when the spelling test comes, there's many ways to make it less stressful. and a lot more accessible. Okay, so you have a lot of ideas here. I'm going to show you some examples. So you might have a whiteboard during a spelling test, and you might be, having blank is for blank PPLE, right? And so they're really just looking at the first letter for some of the spelling words, and that's okay. That's a modification, and depending on what the student's IEP says, that might be a very legitimate way to make modifications for spelling. Another example is the image on the right. It's just 4 different spelling words that rhyme. On the left-hand side, the yellow Post-its, that, sat, mat, cat. On the right-hand side, they have pink Post-its, post, roast, toast, most. And so I would imagine with this modification, they'd be mixed up in all different colors. And the student is categorizing the different word families, right? And they're also categorizing by color. And you can have them identify different letters, maybe letters that are in their name that are on the Post-its. So there's a lot of ways that you can make spelling accessible. So here's an example of modifying ELA curriculum to meet an IEP goal, because IEPs do direct what you're supposed to be modifying and how you're supposed to do it. So this IEP goal is grade 6. The student has a label of a specific learning disability. The student is independent. Their independent reading level is at a pre-K level. So there's a gap between where the student's reading and what grade the student is in. The student likes to read books, but struggles to read with confidence. He likes to participate and is very helpful, but he needs additional support. He benefits from additional support when decoding and reading fluently. He benefits from picture choices to aid with comprehension. So building in visual supports to support the student navigating text. This is all a valid form of literacy. So the IEP goal is by the end of the 2021-2022 school year, the student will refer to details and examples in a text when explaining what a text says explicitly and when drawing inferences from a text with 1 verbal prompt on 7 out of 10 opportunities, as measured by weekly probes and assessments. For example, running record, rubrics, teacher prepared tests. So this is something that as a paraprofessional, you'd be expected to implement, right? And so the next set of slides will give you an idea of how to create modifications. So this is an example of a commonly used curriculum, an ELA curriculum in our region. It's called WonderWorks. And the students here are reading about the dragon problem is the name of this story. And so you'll see that there are a variety of visual access points. Things are highlighted. There's an audio text button. There's notes students can take. There's a text evidence and vocabulary. So there are already lots of things built in. You can zoom in and zoom out of the text. So some of these are accommodations that don't change anything, and you can still provide extra access points to the students that you're supporting. So the IEP goal, as a reminder, to refer to details and examples in a text when explaining what the text says explicitly. So one idea is listen to the story and answer comprehension questions. So, utilizing the built-in accommodation features or accessibility features in this program, okay? So realizing that you have a lot of accessibility features already there. A second idea of how to modify this is to simplify the text and have him read it to you and answer comprehension questions. Okay, so instead of having this text that has a lot of words that could be complex, you're changing it to long ago there was a boy, Liang. All day Liang helped his dad. They made furniture. At night, he made toys, right? So this is the text that we're simplifying. So you need access to a laptop, but it would be something that wouldn't be too long to do. And you would just need to read the story ahead of time and know what your student needs to access it in terms of their reading level. So a third idea is to insert images to help with context. So long ago, there was a man, Liang. All day, Liang helped his dad. They made furniture at night. He made toys. And there's a lot of great tech. And so you can research some of these texts. Read and Write Gold is one of them. Microsoft Word has built-in features, a picture dictionary where you can type and pictures will pop up and you can click and those pictures get inserted into the text. So really simple, easy accommodations or modifications. that provide a lot of extra context. Also great for English language learners in your class. So here, creating synonyms for vocabulary words. So the same meaning, just a different word, right? So instead of "I'll show him," Liang muttered angrily. If you just go on thesaurus.com, you have lots of different words. Instead of muttered, you can choose complain, groan, growl, moan. So you can, maybe one of these words is more accessible to the student that you're supporting, and maybe simplified text is in their IEP, right? And like I said, this is from thesaurus.com, really simple. The fifth option here is chunk the text visually. So instead of having the student read everything, have the student read different boxes that are smaller amounts. Maybe you have them pre-read this, and if the student asks, or if the teacher asks someone to read, they can then read one of these boxes and practice that, and that's how they participate in class, by having pre-read and really only focused on one area of the text. And then here's another. So you can pick a section that you think the student would be able to read and have them focus on that, rather than the pressure of reading the whole thing. All right, so for your deeper dive activity for this module, I strongly suggest you make an ELA modification. So you use your modification bag, and you, if you click on this link here, it'll take you to a Google Doc that has a table in it, and you'll have this worksheet. And so I'm not suggesting that giving students a bunch of worksheets is best practice all the time, but what I'm saying is this is a reality, that you'll be handed something and you'll be like, I need to make this accessible for my student. So what I'd like for you to do is look at this grade level 1 ELA worksheet, and then use your modification bag and make 3 to 5 on-the-fly modifications based on the worksheet. And again, I'm saying on the fly as a reactive modification. The goal is you want to plan with your teacher proactive modifications that are well planned out, but oftentimes you'll be given worksheets and you'll have to know what to do. So the idea here is that you modify this worksheet with your modification bag. So I suggest you do this to get practice and just to get really good at it. So the summary of our key ideas. ELA modifications can be reactive, on the fly, to adapt to the changes of a classroom, because classrooms are dynamic, classrooms change, and they can be proactive and planned out ahead of time. And the goal is to have proactive modifications prepared as often as possible once you get into a good groove of modification and planning with your teacher. But you'll still need to have reactive modifications as well. And becoming fluent with how to make proactive and reactive modifications is important, so paraprofessionals can effectively support students with disabilities and inclusive classrooms. Again, you are a critical role here, where you are providing these supports. We're not dumping and running kids in these classrooms. We're thoughtfully placing them in there and then providing the necessary supports as outlined by inclusive laws like IDEA. So if you'd like any references and do a deeper dive with some of the literature, you can take a look at these. This is where all the images come from, should you be interested in checking that out. And thank you for your attention to this. And again, thank you to the LRC-South for sponsoring the development of this module.